If I gave you a euro or a dollar every time you've read the phrase, "We offer meaningful work in a dynamic environment," you'd probably have enough to retire by now. Let's start with something spicy. Employer value propositions are dead. They've been killed by meaningless corporate jargon, PowerPoint platitudes, and empty adjectives like innovative, collaborative, and fast-paced that doesn't really mean anything. Welcome to episode 197 of the Story-Driven Business Podcast. I'm your host, Susanna Rantanen, author of The Story-Driven Employer Branding and the creator of the Magnetic Employer Branding Method. And today I'm inviting you to attend the funeral of the old school EVP because the new world of work demands more than slogans. It demands a story. We're talking about moving from EVP to impact, from scripted statements to key story themes that make your company mission feel real inside and out. If you're a leader, HR pro, marketing or comm strategist, and tired of talking in circles about employer branding, this episode is going to be your liberation. So let's burn the fluff and build something magnetic. If I gave you a euro or a dollar every time you've read the phrase, "We offer meaningful work in a dynamic environment," you'd probably have enough to retire by now. Corporate fluff has diluted the entire EVP conversation. Most EVPs don't resonate. Why? Because they're not stories, they're slogans. They don't show, they tell. They don't evolve, they sit static on career pages that no one believes. Key story themes can fix this. They're dynamic, they're real, they're strategic. They come alive through your content. They are your leadership values in action. In this episode, I'll explain how you can ditch dead weight EVP copy and finally create a living, breathing brand your people believe in. For years, companies have been told to write an EVP, a big statement about what they offer employees. But here's the truth. Most EVPs are created for approval, not impact. They're born in meeting rooms, shaped by consensus, and polished and repolished by copywriters who've never met your employees. They sound good, but they're completely disconnected from the reality, from the authentic, true employee experiences, how it actually feels to work in your organization. Worse, they are like milk. A year or two later, leadership changes, culture shifts, new people arrive, but your EVP stays stuck in 2021. That's not branding, that's stagnation. In the Magnetic Employer Branding Method and in my book, Story-Driven Employer Branding, I introduced a better way. Replace static EVP statements with the modern work-to-life promise and back it up with key story themes that evolve with your business. A modern work-to-life promise reflects your organization's view of the relationship between working and living in today's society. It's rooted in strategic culture and leadership values, making it far more relatable, dynamic, and relevant than a fixed EVP. But this promise comes to life only through key story themes. Key story themes are not slogans. They are content-driven narratives, real, recurring, and rooted in lived employee experiences. They are how your leadership values become visible. They become the red thread across all your messaging, from job ads to leadership comms, from social media to onboarding. So I want you to imagine, instead of "we value collaboration," you show what collaboration looks like between teams and your people in practice. Instead of "we empower people," you share stories of real growth, support, and autonomy from inside the business. Story teams invite everyone inside and outside the organization into an ongoing, evolving story. They build trust because they're transparent. They build alignment because they're consistent. And they build meaning because they are human. One of our clients came to us with an EVP that they have been collecting what we call digital dust for a few years. It had everything you want from a perfect EVP. It had the innovation, it had the passion, it had the opportunity, but it also had zero traction. So we helped them to define a powerful modern work-to-life promise that reflected their unique role in the society and what makes their work meaningful. Then we uncovered the key story themes based on their lived culture, real feedback, and leadership priorities. We embedded these themes into their content plan, their hiring communications, and what we call the internal town halls, so the internal communication. And this made their brand feel alive again. Employees were able to recognize themselves in those stories. Candidates saw something worth joining, and leaders saw how their culture aligns with their strategy. And guess what? Not once did we use the word passion or innovative. So I want to talk to you why this matters more than ever. So with the hybrid work, generational shifts, and rapid change, employees and candidates who are, by the way, humans are no longer fooled by fluff, by marketing fluff, by advertising fluff. We all want to feel something real. We all want a reason to care about your messages and about your content, about your promises. That comes from meaningful content tied to shared values and actual lived experiences. A modern work-to-life promise gives your brand a strategic clarity. Key story themes give the traction, the life, and the credibility. And when we tie these two together, they help leaders lead with consistent messaging, communications create purposeful content, HR build trust and emotional safety internally and externally, and marketing drive authenticity and brand affinity. So how do you start building them? First, you have to forget about writing a slogan. Ask instead, what is the modern role of work in people's lives in our organization? Then you want to craft your modern work-to-life promises based on your strategic culture and your leadership view of sustainable, meaningful work. Then you do want to talk to your people. You want to know what their experiences are that align with your business strategy, your leadership values, and those intended promises. You want to collect their stories, extract themes, and turn these into your key story themes that are rich, that are relatable, and provide you with recurring narratives. Then you want to translate these into content pillars. You need 3 content pillars. First one is where you actually draw the attention and you start building trust. These are usually values-related content. Can be stories, can be reels, can be leadership messages internally, can be carousels on Instagram. It can be stories, but they have to be based mostly on values so that your external audience can find some kind of a connection with what your organization believes in. The second content pillar is always about showing up a more analytical view of your promise, your opportunities, and what does it mean to be part of your company? How can one build a career and a desired life being part of your company? And then your third pillar is often about the pride of working, part of your organization, how your employees feel about it, their experiences, their knowledge, how they share it, and also the evidence of how your people feel about working in your organization. So key takeaways that I want to give you today from this episode. EVPs are outdated and disconnected from your real culture, real leadership values, and real employee experiences. And they're often very static. You want to steer away from being static to becoming a transformational experience of how it feels working in your organization. And what is the value, the added value that being part of your organization can provide for your people? A modern work to life promise reframes work as part of meaningful life. It's no longer about just what happens during working hours. It's about how this experience of being part of your organization actually improves your employees' lives, not just today, but for their future as well. Key story themes turn promises into visible proof in the form of content and messages. And together they build a foundation of a story-driven, trustworthy employer brand. I talk or explain this in depth in my book, Story-Driven Employer Branding. But as a closing thought, I want to tell you that it's time to really stop fluffing those slogans and start shaping a culture-based narrative embroiled with your employee experiences, your strategic culture, your values, your purpose, the mission, the vision, the customer promise, and your leadership values and behavior. Modern work demands a modern brand, one that speaks to life, not just labor, one that is very human to human. Steer away from campaigns and advertising type of feel in your content. That doesn't work anymore. So if your EVP is collecting dust, you have to bury it and build something better. I recommend a modern work to life promise that is rooted in your truth, in those key story themes that bring it to life and brings out the evidence of real employee experiences. Now, I have show notes available for you as always. You can find them on modernemployeebrand.com/podcast197. There's also a link to my new book, which I strongly recommend you to get if this really resonates with you. Until next time, keep leading with story.